Northern Tehran, 11 kilometers north of Azadi Tower, 2:10 in the morning, 112 U.S. Army Rangers from the 75th Ranger Regiment were moving toward the Zulfiqar Command Citadel to break Iran's war council in a single strike. Inside the compound, 384 Iranian forces defended the command bunker, the air defense grid, and the server rooms that controlled missile response plans. The Rangers had 90 minutes to seize the citadel before Iran's field commands dispersed. The Zulfiqar Command Citadel sat under a government complex built into a steep hillside above District 1. A concrete shell covered 3 underground levels. 2 blast gates sealed the lower entrance. 4 guard towers watched the roads. 6 Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft guns ringed the upper terraces. Fiber lines ran from the bunker to regional command posts, and a backup generator yard kept the site alive if the city grid failed. Iranian forces believed no raid could reach the center of Tehran, cut through 3 defense rings, and escape before armored reinforcements closed every road. U.S. Army planners built the assault around speed, silence, and shock. Alpha Element had 28 U.S. Army Rangers and the main breach package. Bravo Element had 30 U.S. Army Rangers and the job of taking the towers, the generator yard, and the eastern gate. Charlie Element had 26 U.S. Army Rangers and the task of driving into the lower tunnel and clearing the command level. Delta Element had 28 U.S. Army Rangers with MK18 Mod 0 rifles, M240B machine guns, Javelin missiles, and drone control gear to block reinforcements and cover extraction. Offshore support had already launched 4 BGM-109 Tomahawk missiles to cut radar links south of the city, while 2 aircraft held AGM-114, Hellfire missiles, and GBU-31J DAM bombs in reserve if the raid stalled. The assault started at 2:14 in the morning. Alpha and Bravo moved from the north and east at the same time. Charlie drove through a drainage cut toward the lower tunnel. Delta spread across the road approaches and set the first ambush line. The first shots came from suppressed MK18 CQBR rifles and M4A1SO PMOD-2 carbines. Tower 1 went dark in 9 seconds. Tower 2 lost power 11 seconds later when Bravo cut the feed line and dropped the backup panel with C4. Iranian forces heard the blast, but the attack came from 3 directions at once. Radio calls crossed over each other. One checkpoint swung its PKM machine gun toward the north wall. Another checkpoint fired AK-74 bursts toward the lower road. Neither post understood the main breach was already moving. At 2:16, Alpha reached the outer vehicle gate. A breacher ran date cord across the locking bar and dropped the gate in one blast. 3 Rangers rushed through, 1 threw a flash charge into the guard bay. 2 more cut down the first response team before it reached the stairwell. Bravo hit the generator yard at the same moment. An Iranian crew tried to swing a DSHK heavy machine gun across the concrete lane. A Ranger fired a Carl Gustav M3 round through the shield wall. The gun position collapsed. Charlie pushed deeper along the lower approach road and came under fire from an RPG-7 team above the tunnel mouth. The first rocket hit the retaining wall. The second flew high. Charlie answered with a MK48 Mod 0 burst and a thermite charge on the steel service door beside the tunnel. The lock burned through. Charlie entered the lower access point and kept moving. At 2:18, Iranian forces finally understood the scale of the raid. The bunker operations room sent 44 guards from the second level toward the main stairs. 6 pickup trucks rolled from a nearby barracks to the eastern gate. Delta had been waiting for that move. A Javelin missile struck the lead truck and blocked the lane. An M2 Browning opened up from a hidden firing point on the slope. The second truck stopped. The third tried to reverse and hit a wall. Iranian forces dismounted into open ground and Delta cut them down in less than 40 seconds. Inside the upper courtyard, an Alpha crossed 32 meters of open concrete under fire from Tower 3. A Ranger with an AT-4 hit the tower base. The structure stayed standing, but the firing slit disappeared in dust and fragments. Alpha reached the first blast door and slapped on a shaped charge. The door blew inward. The first hallway fight began. At 2:20, the fight split into 4 moving battles. Alpha cleared the upper administration floor room by room. Iranian staff officers and signal troops tried to hold corridors with AK-74 rifles and 1 PKM set behind an overturned table. Alpha stayed low, tossed 2 flash charges, and entered on both sides of the smoke. The PKM team went down first. Bravo pushed from the generator yard to the eastern stairwell and found the stair landing blocked by welded steel racks. A breacher fixed linear charge across the center bars and fired it. The racks folded inward. Bravo climbed over and took the landing. Charlie reached the lower tunnel fork where one passage led to fuel storage and the other to the command lift. 8 Iranian forces fired from sandbags across the lift hall. Charlie put an M249 SAW on the corner, pinned the hall, then rolled C4 under the sandbags. The blast opened the route. Delta shifted 1 team south after a motorcycle scout escaped the first ambush. 2 Rangers with MK11 Mod 0 rifles stopped the scout and the sedan behind him before either reached a city roadblock post. At 2:22, the Iranian bunker commander tried to lock down level 2 and wipe the server archive. That order came 18 seconds too late. Bravo had already cut the internal power line to the archive wing. Backup batteries kicked in, but the wipe cycle froze at 12%. Alpha reached the security desk outside the archive and killed the guards at close range. 1 Ranger dragged a portable jammer onto the desk and blocked short-range radio traffic inside the corridor. Charlie left the tunnel fork and drove hard for the lift shaft. A steel blast shutter started to drop in front of them. A breacher ran forward under PKM fire, stuck a shaped charge to the side track, and blew the guide rail apart before the shutter sealed. Charlie slipped through the gap and entered level 2. Iranian forces on the far side fired from office doors and copy rooms. Charlie answered with short, fast bursts and kept the hall moving. At 2:24, Delta reported the first heavy reinforcement attempt from the west. 12 vehicles were approaching in 2 groups. Delta let the front group close to 140 meters, then hit the 3rd vehicle with another Javelin missile. The road jammed at once. 2 Rangers armed with M24 OB machine guns swept the trapped column. A support drone marked survivors for a Hellfire strike, but Delta did not need it. The blocked road bought 14 more minutes. Inside the Citadel, Bravo reached the command communications room. 6 Iranian operators tried to save hard drives and sat phones. Bravo shot 2, captured 4, and pulled every drive into evidence bags. Alpha moved toward the central stairwell and ran into the strongest resistance yet. 21 Iranian guards held the bend with 2 PKM machine guns, body armor, and spare magazines stacked behind filing cabinets. Alpha could not stay in the open hall. 1 Ranger fired a Carl Gustav M3 round into the far wall. Dust filled the bend. Another Ranger rushed the near gun with an M4A1 SOP Mod E2 and dropped both crewmen. Alpha surged up the stairs. At 2:26, Charlie hit the lower command corridor just as the War Council security platoon formed a final line. 14 Iranian forces knelt behind concrete planters and steel cabinets outside the main chamber. 2 more held the side doors with RPG-7 launchers. Charlie split instantly. 1 fire team pinned the front. Another team cut left through a records room, kicked through a service wall, and entered from the side. The first RPG fired and blew apart a ceiling panel. The second gunner never got the shot off. Charlie smashed the side door, crossed 9 meters of office space, and killed the rear guards at close range. The front line broke. 3 Iranian officers ran for the chamber doors. None reached them. By 2:28, the whole bunker shook. From gunfire, failed alarms, and shattered power boxes, Iranian forces still had numbers, but they had lost control of movement. Units on level 1 did not know level 2 was already breached. Troops on the surface thought the main fight was still outside the gates. That confusion was exactly what U.S. Army planners wanted. Alpha now held the upper stairwell, Bravo held the archive wing and East Hall. Charlie was 18 meters from the War Council chamber. Delta still owned every road that mattered. The defense system existed on paper, but the pieces could no longer support each other. At 2:30, Charlie hit the chamber entrance. The double doors were locked and cross-braced from inside. A breacher set 2 shaped charges on the hinges while an M249 SAW kept the hallway suppressed. The blast blew both doors off their frame. Charlie entered under a cloud of dust and broken wiring. The War Council chamber was wider than expected, with a sunken center table, wall screens, and a rear map station. 9 armed Iranian guards fired from behind the table and the side consoles. Charlie answered with MK18 CQBR fire from both sides of the entrance. 1 team moved right, 1 moved left. In 26 seconds, the room was theirs. 4 senior officials were found dead near the rear exit. 3 were wounded. 2 tried to hide in the side planning room and were captured. At 2:32, Alpha pushed down from the stairwell to link with Charlie. The connecting corridor turned into a brutal, close fight. Iranian forces still loyal to the bunker commander came from sleeping quarters and tried to retake the chamber. They used AK-74 rifles, 1 PKM, and hand grenades thrown from a laundry passage. Alpha sealed the passage with C4 and fired through the smoke at movement in the doorway. Charlie dragged a wounded Ranger behind the chamber wall and kept firing. Bravo sent 8 Rangers from the archive wing to support the link-up. They entered the corridor from the opposite end and trapped the defenders in the middle. The fight ended in 3 minutes. 27 Iranian forces were down in the hallway. The chamber was secure. At 2:34, Bravo reached the central server room. 3 technicians were trying to melt backup drives with thermite. Bravo shot 1 and pulled the other 2 away before the racks caught fire. A Ranger used a fire bottle on the first tray and saved the rest of the servers. Another team cut the fiber trunks and tagged the switches for removal. Alpha found the bunker commander in a sealed side office with 5 bodyguards and a satellite handset. The office door held against the first kick. A breacher put a strip of date cord around the lock plate and blew it inward. The bodyguards fired from behind a desk. Alpha dropped all 5 in seconds. The commander was wounded in the shoulder and captured alive. That single capture gave the raid proof that the site had been the real War Council node. At 2:36, Iranian forces outside the compound made one last organized push. 36 troops from a nearby security battalion moved up the South Road with 2 armored trucks and 1 technical mounting a Zu-23-2 gun. Delta shifted its last reserve team to a terrace wall overlooking the approach. A Ranger with a Javelin missile destroyed the first armored truck. The second stopped short and tried to unload into a drainage ditch. 2 M24 OB machine guns cut through the dismount line. The technical swung its gun toward Delta's ridge. A Hellfire missile from overhead struck it before it fired a full burst. The road was blocked again. No outside force would reach the Citadel in time. At 2:38, U.S. Army Rangers began stripping the objective. Bravo bagged 41 hard drives, 12 encrypted radios, and 19 paper binders from the archive wing. Charlie secured the chamber, photographed the table displays, and tagged every map board and code sheet. Alpha cleared the last offices on level 2 and found 14 Iranian force hiding in a locked records room. They surrendered after a flash charge burst under the door. Delta reported no movement on the West Road and only scattered fire from rooftops beyond the compound wall. The mission had moved from assault to seizure, but every team knew the window was still narrow. At 2:43, extraction began. Delta pulled its outer road teams back in stages and left 2 covered firing points active. Alpha escorted the captured commander and 9 officials to the lower tunnel route. Bravo carried the server crates and document bags in 4-man loads. Charlie stayed rear guard inside the bunker and destroyed the chamber displays with thermite and rifle fire. Iranian forces on the surface tried scattered attacks from side buildings, but the defense had lost all shape. One group of 11 rushed the eastern stairwell and ran into Bravo's M4A1SO PMOD2 line. Another group fired from a rooftop with a DSHK, and Delta answered with a Carl Gustav M3 round that dropped the parapet onto the gun. At 2:54, the extraction convoy cleared the northern edge of the city and linked with outbound aircraft beyond the mountains. Iranian reinforcements reached the Citadel at 3:01 and opened fire on wrecked doors, ruined offices, and dead power rooms. They were 21 minutes too late to stop the seizure and 47 minutes too late to save the War Council from capture. In 44 minutes of fighting, U.S. Army Rangers killed 126 Iranian forces, wounded 71, and captured 38, including 10 senior officials and the bunker commander. U.S. Army losses were 2 killed and 7 wounded. The raid destroyed 2 armored trucks, 5 pickup trucks, 1 technical with a ZU-23-2 gun, 3 guard towers, 1 generator yard control station, 1 lift shaft, 1 archive cage, and 17 secure relay systems, for an estimated $118 million in lost equipment, infrastructure, and command capability. Iran believed the Zulfiqar Command Citadel could direct a war from beneath Tehran without fear of a ground assault. What actually happened was that 112 U.S. Army Rangers entered the capital, broke the bunker in 44 minutes, and left with its leaders, its files, and its nerve center. Iranian forces had concrete, steel, numbers, and time to prepare. What they did not have was 112 U.S. Army Rangers willing to take the one place they believed could never fall.